Season 10, Episode 14 of Love and Marriage Huntsville, titled Nell in a Handbasket, focuses heavily on rising tension, emotional breakdowns, and long-standing issues finally coming to the surface. This episode shows how unresolved problems, when ignored for too long, can explode in ways no one expects. The episode opens with Nell at the center of attention, and not in a good way. Her emotional state is clearly fragile, and the pressure from multiple directions is beginning to show. Conversations that were once manageable now feel overwhelming. Nell appears frustrated, defensive, and emotionally drained, which sets the tone for the rest of the episode. Tisha is one of the main people affected by Nell's behavior in this episode. Their relationship has been strained for a long time, and the tension between them is no longer subtle. Tisha approaches the situation carefully, but it's clear she is tired of repeating herself. She expresses concern, but also makes it clear that concern does not mean she will continue to accept behavior that feels disrespectful or unstable. As the episode continues, Nell's interactions with others become more intense. Small comments turn into larger issues, and conversations feel heavier than usual. There's a noticeable pattern where Nell feels misunderstood, while others feel they are constantly walking on eggshells around her. This imbalance creates frustration on both sides. One of the key themes in this episode is accountability. Several cast members question whether Nell is willing to take responsibility for her actions, or if she continues to deflect and blame others. This becomes especially clear during group conversations, where Nell reacts strongly to feedback instead of reflecting on it. Tisha, in particular, reaches a point where she feels the need to draw a line. She explains that support does not mean accepting chaos. Her tone is calm but firm, showing growth and emotional maturity. She is no longer interested in arguing in circles. She wants clarity, boundaries, and peace. Meanwhile, other cast members observe the situation closely. Some express sympathy for Nell, recognizing that she is under emotional strain. Others feel that her behavior has gone unchecked for too long. This division creates tension within the group as people struggle to balance compassion with honesty. Another major focus of the episode is communication, or the lack of it. Many of the problems shown could have been addressed earlier, but avoidance allowed them to grow. This episode highlights how silence and passive behavior can be just as damaging as open conflict. Nell's emotional responses throughout the episode suggest that she is overwhelmed. She appears to feel attacked even when others are trying to express concern. This reaction makes it difficult for productive conversations to happen. Instead of resolution, the discussions often end with more confusion and hurt feelings. Tisha's role in this episode stands out. She does not raise her voice or insult anyone. Instead, she speaks clearly about how the situation has affected her. She explains that she cannot continue to engage in relationships that feel emotionally unsafe. This moment marks a shift in how she handles conflict. The title of the episode, Nell in a Handbasket, feels fitting as viewers watch Nell struggle to maintain control of her emotions and relationships. The phrase reflects how quickly things spiral when emotions take over and accountability is avoided. As the episode moves forward, the tension does not fully resolve. Instead, it settles into an uncomfortable pause. Some relationships feel permanently changed. Others feel like they are at a crossroads, waiting for someone to make the next move. By the end of the episode, it's clear that this is not just about one argument or one misunderstanding. It's about patterns that have been building over time. The cast is forced to confront uncomfortable truths about themselves and each other. This episode also raises questions about emotional boundaries. How much should people tolerate in the name of loyalty or friendship? When does support turn into self-sacrifice? These questions are not answered directly, but they linger long after the episode ends. Nell's journey in this episode is complex. She is not portrayed as a villain, but as someone struggling to cope. However, struggle does not erase responsibility. The episode shows that growth requires self-awareness, not just emotion. Tisha's decision to stand firm sends a clear message. Peace is not negotiable. Emotional health matters. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is step back from a situation that no longer feels healthy. Overall, Season 10, Episode 14 of Love and Marriage Huntsville delivers a heavy but important chapter in Love and Marriage Huntsville. It focuses less on surface-level drama and more on emotional consequences. The episode reminds viewers that relationships require effort, honesty, and accountability from everyone involved. As the season continues, this episode will likely be remembered as a turning point. It sets the stage for future confrontations, possible growth, and perhaps even separation. One thing is certain, things will not go back to how they were. This episode shows that when emotions are ignored for too long, they eventually demand to be heard. And when they are, the outcome can change everything. As the episode moves deeper, the emotional weight becomes heavier for everyone involved. The group begins to realize that Nell's struggles are not just personal, but are affecting the overall dynamic. Every gathering now feels tense, and people are no longer relaxed around her. This creates a situation where even neutral conversations feel loaded with emotion. One moment that stands out is how Nell reacts when she feels questioned. Instead of hearing people out, she becomes defensive almost immediately. This reaction causes others to shut down or step back, which only increases the distance between her and the group. It becomes clear that trust has been damaged over time. Tisha, on the other hand, continues to show restraint. She acknowledges that Nell may be going through something, but she also makes it clear that emotional pain is not an excuse to hurt others. Her message is consistent. She wants respect, honesty, and stability. She refuses to accept chaos disguised as concern. The episode also highlights how long-term issues can explode when they are ignored. Several cast members admit that they have noticed warning signs before, but chose not to address them. This silence allowed resentment to build quietly. Now, those feelings are coming out all at once. There is also a strong sense of exhaustion throughout the episode. People are tired of repeating the same conversations. They are tired of apologizing without change, and they are tired of hoping things will improve without effort. This emotional fatigue is visible in their body language and tone. Nell appears increasingly isolated as the episode continues, not because people want to exclude her, but because they no longer know how to reach her. Every attempt at communication seems to turn into conflict. This isolation adds to her frustration and emotional breakdown. At the same time, viewers can see that Nell wants understanding, but she struggles to express it in a healthy way. Her emotions come out in bursts, often overwhelming the people around her. This creates a cycle where she feels unheard and others feel attacked. Tisha's final interactions with Nell in this episode feel like a closing chapter, not necessarily the end of the relationship, but the end of tolerance. She calmly explains that she cannot continue engaging in a dynamic that causes stress and confusion. This moment feels like the final nail because it removes emotional access. Other cast members react quietly, realizing that boundaries have officially been set. No one cheers, no one celebrates. The mood is serious and reflective. Everyone understands that something has shifted permanently. The episode does not offer a clean resolution, and that is intentional. Real life does not always end with closure. Sometimes it ends with distance, unanswered questions, and the hope that growth will come later. Nell in a Handbasket ultimately shows how emotional imbalance can affect an entire group. It also shows the importance of self-respect. Supporting someone does not mean losing yourself in the process. By the end of the episode, viewers are left thinking about accountability, boundaries, and emotional maturity. The drama feels less entertaining and more real, which makes it uncomfortable but powerful. This episode serves as a reminder that unresolved emotions will always surface eventually, and when they do, they force everyone involved to make choices about peace, distance, and self-protection. As the season continues, the impact of this episode will be felt. Relationships have changed, lines have been drawn, and moving forward, nothing will feel the same as it did before. As viewers sit with the aftermath of everything that unfolded, it becomes clear that this episode is not about choosing sides. It is about recognizing patterns that have been ignored for too long. Many of the cast members begin to reflect quietly, realizing that what happened with Nell did not start overnight. It was the result of repeated moments where emotions were left unchecked. One important detail in this episode is how calm moments feel just as heavy as the confrontations. Silence hangs in the air during group scenes. People hesitate before speaking, choosing their words carefully. This shows how deeply the tension has settled into the group dynamic. Nell's emotional state continues to be a topic of concern. Some cast members privately express worry, not judgment. They acknowledge that something deeper may be going on, but they also admit they feel powerless to help if Nell refuses to meet them halfway. This creates an emotional conflict between empathy and self-protection. Tisha's growth becomes even more noticeable when compared to earlier seasons. In the past, she may have engaged emotionally or tried to smooth things over. In this episode, she chooses clarity instead. She understands that explaining herself repeatedly is draining, and she no longer feels the need to over-justify her feelings. The episode also highlights how emotional labor often falls on the same people. Tisha has been expected to remain patient, understanding, and forgiving, even when she feels hurt. This episode shows her stepping away from that role and placing responsibility where it belongs. Another subtle but powerful moment comes when the group realizes that Nell's reactions are affecting how others interact with each other as well. Conversations feel cautious. People avoid certain topics. This shows how one unresolved emotional struggle can impact an entire circle. As the episode nears its end, there's a sense of emotional finality, not because everything is resolved, but because certain boundaries can no longer be crossed. The energy is quieter, heavier, and more serious than usual. Viewers may notice that there is no dramatic shouting match or explosive ending. Instead, the episode closes on emotional distance. This makes it even more impactful because it feels realistic. Sometimes the most painful endings are quiet ones. This episode also raises questions about how reality television handles emotional breakdowns. It blurs the line between entertainment and real life. Watching someone struggle emotionally is uncomfortable, and this episode does not try to hide that discomfort. By allowing the tension to sit without easy answers, the show forces viewers to think. It challenges the idea that drama must always be loud to be meaningful. Emotional withdrawal, boundary setting, and silence can be just as powerful. Nell's future on the show now feels uncertain. Whether she grows, reflects, or continues down the same path remains to be seen. What is clear is that things cannot continue the same way. Tisha's decision to emotionally step back sends a strong message. Peace is a choice. Boundaries are not punishment, they are protection. As the episode closes, there's a feeling that everyone involved has been changed by what happened. Some relationships may heal with time, others may fade quietly. Either way, the episode marks a clear turning point in the season. Nell in a Handbasket is not just a title. It reflects what happens when emotional struggles are ignored, when accountability is avoided, and when boundaries are pushed too far. This episode will likely be remembered as one of the most emotionally heavy moments of the season, not because of shocking twists, but because of its honesty. It shows that sometimes the most difficult drama is the kind rooted in real pain. And as the season continues, viewers will be watching closely to see who grows, who reflects, and who refuses to change. Because after this episode, nothing feels light anymore. Everything feels real.